I'll take the respect.
We'll call to order the ONWASA Board of Directors meeting for January the 18th. And going to ask everybody to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to ask for Pastor Josh McCord to give us our invocation.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the board and Mr. Howard. Thank you so much for the privilege and the honor to do this. I'm just going to read a few verses and then pray. This is Genesis 26, 17 to 22. Then Isaac departed from there and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar, and he dwelt there. And Isaac dug again the wells of water, which they had dug in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them up after the death of Abraham. And he called them by the names which his father had called them. And Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found a well of running water there. But the herdsmen of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herdsmen, saying, "The water's ours." So he called the name of the well Esek, which means to quarrel. Then they dug another well, and they quarreled over that one also. And they called the name Sitnah, which means like accusation. And he moved from there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it, so he called the name Rehoboth, because he said, "For now the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land." In the business of water, there seems to be quarrels sometimes and accusations. But the water does not belong to us, it belongs to the Lord. And I'm so grateful that I can trust ONWASA. I believe this company genuinely desires to provide clean water, running water to the community, and do so in a way that honors the Lord. In that spirit, let's go to the Lord in prayer. Our Father in heaven, thank you so much for your love for us. Thank you for all that you provide. We ask now, Lord, that just as you provide the running water, that you would provide the spirit of wisdom and discernment in this meeting, that there would be a spirit of peace, a spirit of understanding, and Lord, that you would guide and direct all the business that will be done tonight, and that you would be glorified in this business. Father, we pray for each and every member here, for the community itself, and we also ask, Lord, that you would purify our water and help us to ensure that our community can have these things and have it for our families that we so desperately love. But we know you love us even more. We trust you in this, Lord, and we ask that your presence would be here. In Jesus' name, amen. You're welcome.
To elect officers.
We'll open the floor for nominations for chairman of the board of directors for ONWASA.
I'll nominate Royce.
I have a nomination for Royce Bennett and a second.
Move the nominations be closed and the candidate elected by acclamation.
Second.
Have a motion and second that the nominations for chairman be closed and Royce Bennett be elected by acclamation. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman, you have another year.
Thank you.
I will now open the nominations for vice chair. Do I have any nominations for vice chair of the ONWASA board?
Nominate Paul Connor.
Have a nomination for Paul Connor. Do I have any other nominations?
I'll second it.
There we go.
I'd like to make a motion that we close the nominations and elect Mr. Connors by acclamation.
We have a motion and a second to close the nominations and elect Paul Connor by acclamation. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Congratulations. You have another year as well.
Thank you.
We have a vacant secretary treasurer position. Do I have any nominations for secretary treasurer of the ONWASA board?
I would like to nominate Rick, the man to my left.
We have a nomination of Richard Grant for secretary treasurer. Do I hear any other nominations?
I'll second that one, if that's okay.
Make a motion to close.
elect by acclamation?
That's it, yes, elect by acclamation, yes.
I have a motion to close the nominations and elect by acclamation. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
Have a motion and second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Congratulations. Mr. Chairman, I will turn the floor back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Kitchen. We're going to ask everybody in the audience to turn their cell phones off or to vibrate, and individuals making presentations during the public comment session, that you adjust the microphone as necessary and speak into the microphone. And this meeting is being recorded. And now it's time to approve the agenda, and I'm going to suggest that we amend the agenda to move item number 6 up to item number 5. We have a closed session scheduled, and I would suggest that we should let the public comments be made before we go into closed session. If I can get a motion to amend the agenda and have it approved as amended.
So moved.
Okay. All in favor? Any discussion?
Aye.
In favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, so we've approved the agenda with item number 6 moved to item number 5, and the closed session moved to last. And now I'll ask if there are any removals from the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And we have a special presentation next. I'll ask Mayor Jeff Winslow to come up. Mayor Winslow served on the board for 2 years, and we appreciate his service. We want to present you with this token of our appreciation for your service to the ONWASA board.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, moving right along into our business. We got a financial update, Mr. Adams.
Good evening, Board. For a few minutes of your time before our auditor with Malden and Jenkins, Mr. Tim Lyons, comes up and presents the 2022 financial auditor's report and financial statements. Wanted to take a few moments to give a mid-year update, review the financial reports that you guys receive on a monthly basis at these board meetings. Provided this evening is the December 31 financial report. At the time of our agenda being created, the report was not finalized with all the attachments, so the official December 31 report will be included with the next board meeting's minutes for approval. So first, looking at the fund and cash report, looking at our current year budget with month-to-date revenue, not month-to-date, but current month revenue and expenditures. You see there the revenues exceeding expenditures for the month of December. That is often the case the first 6 months of the year. Historically, you look at a revenues exceeding expenditures situation for the first 6 months. In the second 6 months, those numbers flip, where expenditures are exceeding revenues. Next, the replacement and restricted fund. You see those in every report. Those are part of the general bond indenture from 2004. Replacement fund put in place to cover any capital improvement needs that may not have been budgeted for related to the bond. Next, the restricted fund is contingency set aside for debt service as required also by bond indenture. Next, you see the capital fund projects for Fund 40 and Fund 42. Fund 40 are those projects that we fund internally through our fund balance, and Fund 42 are those projects that we seek outside funding, such as a bond, as we just did earlier this year. You see there are cash and investments currently for the year. We'll talk a little bit more about those investments on some later pages. Next, our liabilities. You see there our current operating fund balance. Those are our encumbrances in all of our operating departments as of December 31st. and other liabilities related to those capital projects in Fund 40 and 42. Our current debt service coverage ratio is approximately 2.73, which is a good financial health indicator, an ability of this authority to meet its financial obligations in debt service. Sort of the gold standard for that is like 1.25. So in really good shape for debt service coverage. The next page, you see revenue, current budgeted amounts for the full fiscal 23-24 year, as well as total revenue year to date, and a percentage of budget for each of those. The primary revenue sources for the authority are water and sewer revenues, as well as some service fees, sales, administrative services, and other. Did want to point out under sewer user fees, you see it throughout the report percentage of budget about at the 6-month point, about 50% of the budget being realized, with the exception of those sewer user fees. The reason for that is when we amended the budget in September for the acquisition of Plurus and those sewer revenues being predicted, they've not been realized to date. So the last 6 months of the reporting, you'll see additional revenue from sewer user fees. Next, in interest earned on investments through North Carolina Capital Management Trust has been a good opportunity this year to add some interest earned. You'll see we are currently exceeding our anticipated interest earned, so very pleased with those results. And certainly as we're going along, if there's any questions, be happy to answer those.
Should we ask you as you're going through it? Should I ask you as you're going through it? Just a couple of questions. One is, we do the same thing in the town. When you're tracking budget and you're showing a number, do you actually track it by month? So that you can, I mean, because I'm looking at, for example, on user fees, right? So you got 6 months of them in, the budget's 26, you're at 13, 52% would tell me we're basically on budget because it's 6 and 6. But that's only true if our expenses and our revenues are basically flat per month. Do you have a way to track it? So like we're looking at, let's say the first month of the fiscal year, you know, is there a monthly budget for that and an income statement and balance sheet for that as well?
Not provided.
We don't track that at the town. It drives me crazy. I'm just asking if we do.
In these, we do, obviously, we can include that, and I think that would be
I'm just asking if it's something that you have,
yes now.
because that tells me whether we're actually on budget or not, right? And then the other thing too is, where do the bonds sit in the front? I'm looking at this as a balance sheet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the bonds we just took out?
So this is not obviously not a full balance sheet. So the bonds that we received were in Fund 42, and the revenue and expenditures in those last two statements in these reports.
Right, but I mean, do we show, what's our current bond balance, outstanding bond balance?
Not reported on here, no.
That was my question. So, because that's debt for us otherwise, so it doesn't show up in the balance sheet is what you're telling me. I'm just trying to learn, so it's.
Right, okay. Thank you.
So how do you account for for earned investments, interest being over budget?
So we went through several years where the Capital Management Trust interest earned was very low, as everyone's investments were. So we budgeted that very conservatively, and as I said, have been very pleased with the results on those returns. And in discussions with Lee Carter from Capital Management Trust, do anticipate that those earned interest rates to remain steady for this calendar year as well. So
I'm showing my interest. What is that? I'm sorry? I don't know what the NCCMT investment is. Those are funds we're holding for.
Capital Management Trust.
No, I know that, but those are our funds? That's cash that's sitting there for us.
Right.
It's being invested.
Yes.
That makes sense with the interest rate then, because we got
Okay.
the same thing in the town. You went from 0 interest to now you're getting 3, 4, 5 or whatever. Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
I want to interject here, just on the audit report on page 6, you can see that currently balance as of June 30th. If you wanted to flip to that, as far as the outstanding bonds, it will not have the new bonds we just took out.
I'm just curious, because that's a major,
Chart tracking that and bringing it into the financial report.
Good additions, both of those to these reports.
like I said, I'm not trying to change how you report it. It's just, I'm used to, in the companies I've run, it's reported differently. I just want to make sure I'm understanding it more than anything else. So don't change it, because I need more information, so.
Moving to the next statement is our consolidated expenditures. And again, that is a total budget for the current fiscal year, as well as in total expenditures year-to-date and current encumbrances. The first statement is consolidated. It breaks the operating expenses down by more of a category, personnel and operating, and you see those individual line items and where they stand as far as year-to-date. Second page there, you see our debt service for all of the bonds.
Yep.
Next statement is expenditure and encumbrance by department. Again, looking at those same expenditure numbers, just shown at the department level for all the departments of ONWASA. And you'll notice some of the expenditures have to do with timing, particularly within personnel. You know, some of those are one-time expenditures. Some of those non-departmental are insurance, which is paid one time a year. So you'll see those budgeted either being fully utilized or at zero. The next four reports are related to the capital projects, being the revenue and expenditure for each. These are useful tools with the percentages, I think, to sort of a quick snapshot of where those are in the progress of being completed. Very happy to see where the Northwest project at 99.2, right there, close. So, and again, on the Fund 42 is where our current bond was included. So, any additional questions on those two statements? Certainly, I do appreciate the feedback on these reports. Want to make them as useful as possible to you guys and as user-friendly. So if we can make amendments, changes, additions, subtractions, happy to do that. Certainly wanted to be useful for all of us users.
Any more questions? Thank you, Mr. Adams. That'll be our comprehensive financial report, Mr. Lyons.
Good evening. Appreciate y'all having me here with y'all tonight. I think I'm waiting potentially for my presentation to be pulled up, but if not, you all should have something that looks like this in front of you. So just a brief agenda. I'm going to just go over kind of at a high level the bound booklet that you all should have with you, and I know it was given to y'all in your packets as well. But just by way of introducing myself and Malden and Jenkins to you all, this is our first year conducting the authority's independent annual financial statement audit. My name is Tim Lyons. I served as the authority's engagement partner, so I had the ultimate responsibility for the audit, for reviewing everything, signing off on everything. And then at the bottom of the slide there, that middle section where it says Grant Davis, every single one of our audits at Malden and Jenkins goes through a quality control review process before we can issue the final report. As the slide shows, we have a large governmental practice, which includes working with a large number of water and sewer authorities across the Southeast. And so Grant is a partner in my office and who works with a number of authorities in South Carolina. Had him look at our report, and basically this process is a whole independent review before we can sign off and issue everything. So that was your engagement team for 2023. On this slide here, we kind of talk about the end result of the audit, if you will. That second major bullet point there that says report on the basic financial statements, that is our responsibility. The financial statements are the responsibility of management. We were engaged to audit them and to express an opinion on them. We rendered an unmodified or a clean opinion on the authority's financial statements. There is no higher or better opinion that you can get. That's as good as it gets as far as an opinion on the financial statements goes. In addition to issuing our opinion on the financial statements, we also conduct the authority's audit in accordance with government auditing standards, also known as the Yellow Book. That is the report that is at the back of the annual comprehensive financial report. We had one item in there that was reported where we had to adjust the beginning net position of the authority this year. There were just a different method that had been used in the past for calculating bond premium amortization. I could get into this and talk for a while, but that's not what y'all want me to do. But just to kind of boil it down, this is a non-cash item, has no impact on cash flows, on anything else. It's just an accounting thing for how when we issue bonds, if they're issued at a premium, they're supposed to be amortized one way. They were not done that way in the past, and so we had to fix it and get it right as of June the 30th. But the adjustment was large enough where we couldn't just run it through the current year, so we had to restate beginning net position. So
That was straight line versus normal amortization? Is that what it was?
we had been doing it straight line, but it should be done using the effective interest method. So we had to, you can use.
It looks like your loan statement for your bank.
Similar, yes. Mm-hmm.
How much principal is left, how much principal is paid
That's
versus
right.
straight line?
That's right. And you can use it, you can do straight line as long as it approximates the interest method. And the difference there happened to be quite large and should have been fixed in the past. So the next few slides are what are known as our required communications. These are items that I am required to submit to you all in writing, which I have done. So I'm not going to go through here and read each one of these, but I'm going to touch on a few that I think are important enough for the board to hear from directly from the independent auditor. This second bullet here about management judgment and accounting estimates, accounting, financial statements now, there's a lot of estimates that are included in producing a GAAP-based set of financial statements. We have to review all of those estimates. We have to review the judgments that management makes. We did not find any that are not based on historical fact or that would be, out of line or not in accordance with what we typically see at utility authorities in auditing several of them. Our relationship with management, we receive full cooperation with the authority's management throughout the conduct of the audit. Audits nowadays, we ask for access to a lot of information. We ask for access to a lot of different people within the organization. At no point in time did we feel like we weren't getting what we needed and had full cooperation in getting the audit completed. And then last but not least, auditor independence. I always want to touch on the fact that, we have to meet some pretty rigorous standards, not only with our own ethical professional standards, but also in accordance with government auditing standards. They're even stricter about what we can and can't do for an auditee in order for us to still be considered independent and to render an opinion on the financial statements. And we meet all of those requirements in order to do so. Just a couple slides here on some financial trends and financial metrics. What I've got here is comparing the authority's revenues in 2023, the fiscal year that we audited, to the previous fiscal year in 2022. And what you'll notice if you kind of flip back and forth between those two is that they're pretty consistent from year to year. The biggest change, and y'all were just kind of discussing this, is the investment income. In 2023, investment income was approximately $1.8 million, or about 4% of total revenues, whereas in the previous year it was $76,000. So again, as was previously discussed and mentioned, that's been a pretty common trend with most of our government clients holding either fixed income investments or investments in the North Carolina Capital Management Trust. Again, you go from the yield being paid on deposits of virtually nothing to now in excess of 4%. That investment income creeps up pretty quickly. This slide here compares total revenues to total expenses over the last 5 years. And so, what we look for here is, are we looking at any sort of negative trends sticking out? Are we looking at, we're running deficits? Certainly y'all have outstanding bonds, and bond coverage ratios are important. And so we don't see any of that. I think it is important to point out that when you look at this is total revenues. This includes things like infrastructure assets that are contributed by developers. So, not all of this is just cash that the authority is taking in. So important to consider that. And you can kind of see that on this next slide. This is expenses by classification, and this looks at over the last 5 years, how have each of these types of expenses trended. The big things that you see stick out in the previous year's audit, Obviously, at the bottom there, departmental expenses, those would be your main operating expenses. Were significantly higher in 2023 than they had been in the last couple of years. Again, not uncommon, not unexpected given inflationary costs and other things that have driven up costs for all kinds of things like wastewater processing and those things that we see at different utility authorities. So nothing else in here, no significant trends stand out to me or to our audit team that would have caused us to indicate or report on something differently. The last couple slides I have here, these are just some kind of technical accounting recommendations we had. I'll touch on each one of these very quickly. In the authority's financial statements, as with all governments, there's an estimated liability for accrued compensated absences. When we book that liability, we also have to include salary-related payments, which includes FICA taxes, the 7.65% for Social Security and Medicare that we have to, so we just had to make an adjustment to include that amount in the liability, had not been included in the past. Accounting for capital asset activity, essentially here, this just has to do with the nuts and bolts, the debits and the credits of how we remove a capital asset from the books. And so we just are recommending that the authority do it a little bit differently than they've done in the past. And last at the bottom, the general ledger accounts. We talked with the authority's accounting department. There's some inactive general ledger accounts that have just not been used for a while, and there's really no indication for what they are. The total of these accounts is not material by any stretch of the imagination, and we just recommended, look, if you've got inactive accounts on your general ledger, go ahead and get them closed out and zeroed out so we can make sure that nothing is hitting there, going there that could cause something to be off in reconciliations or year-end closeout. And the last couple slides I have here, these are just, future pronouncements. We include these in all of our government presentations just to, give folks a heads up. Hey, this is what's coming down the pike from the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, things that we will, happily work with the authority to make sure we get implemented correctly in the next couple of years. And given that this is our first year working with you all, we include a slide here about free quarterly continuing education. We do this for free for all of our government clients across the Southeast. The majority of the time we do it, it's on technical accounting matters, and so I understand that there may not be like a significant desire to be involved in those, but certainly if any of y'all have any interest in that, feel free to get your information to Frankie or to Eric, and I can get you added onto our distribution list for that, as well as just to remind y'all that we do work with governments. Governments is a huge part of what we do at Malden & Jenkins. We're a top 50 accounting firm, and governments are about a third of our business. So it's very important to what we do, and we have a significant advisory services practice as well, just to remind you all that if there's other things that you would want us to do beyond just a normal annual financial statement audit, we do a lot of that as well. So included this, again, this first year, just by ways of information to again, introduce ourselves and to let you know kind of who we are. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you all might have.
Questions for Mr. Lyons? Thank you for your
clean audit.
presentation. Yeah, we got a clean audit. That's good. Thank you so much.
One quick one. I saw where the state has changed the laws on reporting for municipalities and as well as county governments. There's actually a penalty for late submissions. Does that include water and sewer authority boards also?
So I know with cities and county governments, I mean, depending upon how big you are and how late you are, that could result in them starting to withhold money at some point in time. I don't know exactly what they would do or how they would enforce that on a standalone authority that's not waiting for, sales tax distributions or what have you. So I don't know. I do know that if the audit is submitted anytime after December the 1st, we have to get a contract extension. The board has to approve it and sign it. And we have to explain, hey, why the audit's being done late. And even though there could be a very reasonable reason, for lack of a better word, as to why the audit is turned in late, what will spit out when we file the report with the LGC is what they refer to as a financial performance indicator of concern, which requires a formal response from the entity. So you'll get a letter from the treasurer's office indicating, hey, your audit was late. We need you to, provide us with some sort of an explanation as to why it was not done on time and what you're going to do to fix it in the future. So as far as what they would do from a punitive standpoint, I'm really not sure. I don't know what they could do, but. Yeah, I mean, they're always going to require that response if the audit's not done and turned in by December the 1st.
We appreciate your timely response. Thank you.
Sure. Thank y'all.
Mr. Lyons, I would ask Director Howard if you could just kind of briefly address the increase in department expenses, what the generally expenses were that caused us to have that increase?
So my guess would be, because that's 2023, like he had mentioned, we had pretty significant increase in operational expenses. One that we talked about real specifically is chemical supplies. I think we did a budget amendment last year or we had to include an additional $1 million just for plant supplies, for chemicals. So that was the majority of that. I mean, just other items in general, I think are up, as far as operational supplies. We did add some employees, I think, from one budget to the other, so that's a salary that goes into departmental expenses, so that could be part of it. I don't know the difference, but.
I think all of our expenses went up last year. I know my electric bill went up.
Yeah, everything's going up, unfortunately, and that'll indirectly be reflected when we do rate studies for future years, because we have to balance the budget. I mean, we don't have funds coming in, like we just talked about, from the state or any other entity or local governments. We're 100% balanced by our own rates and fees, so that'll have an impact, unfortunately.
Okay, we'll move on to item C and ask Mr. Moore to address the resolution.
To accept the report.
We do.
Oh, we need to accept it, I'm sorry.
Make a motion to accept the annual comprehensive financial report.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, mister. All right.
Good evening, members of the Board of Directors. I promise there will be no financial information in this presentation. The final business item before you this evening is a proposed resolution that will serve as the basis for a formal request to Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune to increase the wastewater treatment capacity currently granted under an existing intergovernmental service agreement between ONWASA and the base. As noted in the agenda narrative, ONWASA is limited to an average of 2 million gallons per day under Phase 1 of the volumetric limits in the agreement, with 50% of that reallocated to the city of Jacksonville to address their treatment needs in the Piney Green area. This current allocation will be insufficient to meet projected future sewer demand in the Swansboro area once the new Highway 24 sewer force main is complete and put into service. We've had some informal discussions with public works staff at the base about raising the volumetric limit to what is referred to as Phase 2, which is 3.5 million gallons per day average, and have not been successful in getting approval for that. Our liaison with the base command staff recommended the submittal of a formal resolution and a request that would generate a definitive response. And actually in the IGSA, that's how you ask for more capacity, is you make a formal request to the commanding officer. The action requested this evening is to consider a motion to approve the resolution, request the additional wastewater treatment capacity from Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune, and authorize the chairman of the board of directors to execute the document. I'd be happy to answer any questions on the item.
Got some questions. Any chance they turn us down?
There is a provision in the agreement that it can be terminated. There is a 3-year?
It's a 3-year,
Yeah, you mean to address that? The short answer is they can legally deny it at any point. There is a provision in the agreement say basically that if the Marine Corps needs the capacity, then we can't get it. That's the short, that's the simplified way of doing it. Dealing with the federal government and with the Corps, the Corps comes first, and whatever they need, they get. And then what we're doing is asking for this allocation. They had indicated when we entered into the contract, they had additional capacity. We're asking for that capacity. If now things have changed and they do not have the capacity, that could influence what ONWASA might want to do in the future as far as planning.
I'm concerned about the Swansboro.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
I mean, we've designed and all of this, and now we're asking for increasing capacity.
Sarah, we've been discussing it with them all the way through the design process. They were heavily involved. They actually had to sign off on part of the permit application. I guess one of the things that's fostering this is that we've submitted for permits on the Force Main project, and in roughly 90 days, if the state processes them according to their schedule, we'll be in a position to bid that out. And I guess from my standpoint, we're trying to get an idea before we take the plunge, so to speak, that make sure that they're going to be responsive down the road. Right now, there's capacity. If we connected to Swansboro today, we wouldn't have any trouble. It's the 20-year, the projected, future capacity is what we're looking for.
You might want to follow up on that, because where's that crossover? 20 years, it doesn't go from 0 to 20. Where's it, I guess I thought what you were asking, which was a good question, is if this doesn't happen, what's Plan B? Okay, and when do we hit that Plan B's got to be in? I would think that would be, I'm sure you guys have already looked at that.
And I think that, well, and again, I understand what both of you are saying. How long is this contract good for that we have with them now? Just through 3?
It was 10 years, I thought. I
can't remember. Is it
wanted
an
longer.
evergreen, or is it
Oh, it's actually,
term specific?
It's a term-specific contract.
But no evergreen clause? Okay.
And see, I mean, there was trepidation when we entered, I won't say there's trepidation, but there was a lot of discussion about this when we first did this, and we thought, well, we were kind of getting an ironclad contract here, and it's been everything but.
Yes, you're betting on one
So,
horse.
absolutely, and so, I mean, even if we get this approval, which, I mean, obviously we need to have a Plan B moving forward.
I will just mention that at the time the board considered its current plans, we did not have the Plurus Webb Creek plant, and it wasn't even on the radar at that point. So things have changed since that time. So I think there probably is a Plan B now that we did not have at the time the board considered this.
But there's no short-term shortfall. Correct. So that we have the ability to meet current customers. We have the ability to handle some growth. The question is, how far down the road, which I thought was your point, does that cross over where now, okay, no more customers because we don't have the facilities? Because everybody's got growth that's sitting up here, I'm pretty sure.
In other words, how long have we got to design and come up with Plan B?
Exactly.
And construct a Plan B?
Exactly.
What does that look like as far as your capacity when you?
The Swansboro wastewater plant is permitted for 600,000 gallons a day. The average daily flow in 2023 was 428,000. So basically 2/3 of the capacity of the plant. So we do have some headroom there, but that'll be the next trigger is when we get to 600,000 at Swansboro. Right now, it all depends on growth in the sewer area. We saw a pretty substantial increase over the previous year out there in terms of flow volume. It was down some through the COVID time, but it rebounded. I'm guessing if the growth would continue probably 3 to 4 years, we may be approaching that 600.
Well, I think we need to add.
What was the Webb Creek? There was we could add on to Webb Creek, if I recall.
Webb Creek is rated at 350, and I think we're running at 250 right now, so we've got some headroom there.
But there was
There's
also
space on the site.
But also we could add to that, if I recall, couldn't we?
There's space on the site to build an additional facility. Nothing's been, designed yet for it, but. So, yeah, I would agree, there are some options.
and we're sort of at a critical point, because when we first started this effort, the cost of these estimated projects were quite a bit less. So I think this particular project was about 12 million, the Force Main, to get it from Swansboro to the base. Now, if you look at our CIP, it's roughly 30 million. So we do have to make a pretty critical decision, and that's kind of why the timing is important, because if the base does deny this request and say it keeps us at the 2 million, do we spend 30 million to pipe additional flow to them? Probably not.
So ask for it, determine what the answer is, and then plan for options.
But then back to your earlier point, though, is if we've got a term specific, giving us 2 and having to expire in 3 years, doesn't take care of the problem that we want. So I'm assuming you would be asking for that capacity for a longer period of time.
A lengthier time, yeah, whatever it would allow, I guess.
Yeah, well, yeah, if you recall, the people that were on the board, we did ask for more of a commitment from the base, and the answer was no. So it was one of those things, it was,
It's easy to
here is
say
what
no.
we are offering you, and we're the government.
We're here to help.
So, yeah, so here's what so it was a yes or no. There wasn't any, there was no room for negotiation in that.
Past, we need to always have a plan B.
Yep.
Past time on this board.
10 years.
Okay.
Part
They
of,
did the same thing to us in Sneed Ferry and down in Holland Ridge.
That's when we first found out that there was a problem
Right,
with their extra capacity, so.
right.
speaking of that Plan B, so part of me, and I think I've mentioned this in a couple weeks reports back, but depending on how this bid comes out, if we go that route for the force main, if we put that pipeline in place, that could potentially be part of our Plan B if we are able to design it in a way that it sends it to another facility that we then design and build in the Swansboro area, so we can take care of Piney Green ourselves. Without that pipeline, we still have to deal with Piney Green, which is about 400,000 gallons a day, I think, average flow. So we do have to think about that in addition to Swansboro, because it's not connected to any of our other systems.
Got it.
Except for the city of Jacksonville, which we do send flow into that with them jointly.
Yeah, I know the city is not using
As much
anywhere near it, but I mean, there is some,
potential.
there have been some developments that we've approved for annexation that will be sending some sewer that way, so.
And some of our biggest projects are in that particular area.
We
They're
sending
potentially
our stuff
coming
to
up.
Maybe as an alternate, be a meeting with our elected representatives, and I can understand the Department of Defense's position in terms of holding on to what they have. But as I recall, that plant that they have, what was it, 10
15
million?
million gallons,
15
yeah,
million
15 million.
capacity?
15 million. Can't
I think it's
possibly
time
be
to play a
using all
little
that.
politics on this too.
Yeah, I agree.
They're not known for moving fast.
It,
When do you expect a response back?
I think it'll generate, from what I understand from our liaison, it'll generate an official study of their capabilities. So no longer will we be dealing with the staff sort of informally, like we've been doing. The command will say, give me some reports, give me some statistics, let's talk about capacities. How can we help ONWASA out, or how can we not? So it could take a while for them to generate all that. I'm not sure.
I felt like last time we had this conversation, this wasn't really a top-down decision. They kind of put it off on the people that were running their plants to determine if they wanted to accept us or not. So command followed their recommendations.
I think that's what he's saying is gonna happen again, though.
Well, I think that's how they dealt with the informal, the way it was told to me. If it was informal, email, discussion, they would do it that way. But if it's formal, command's going to ask for more statistics.
And it has to be approved by the attorneys up in DC.
Well, let me say this a different way. Same thing. I want to say the exact same thing, just a little bit differently. That's what happened at Stone Bay, though.
Absolutely.
That's what blocked us at Stone Bay, right? And that was a formal request. And it was still, hey, well, let's defer to these guys. They're running this. Sorry, but no.
Well, weren't we even up to the engineering part of that?
We were ready to pull the trigger on it. That's, I mean, we're right where we are right now.
That's right.
Request or informal? I thought it was informal. Was it formal? I thought it was informal.
I think it was informal. I think it was actually informal. I'm not sure. I have to look back.
At Stone Bay, was that informal or formal?
I don't remember. I think it was informal. I don't know.
I think it was formal enough to where we were going on with the design process and all, because we thought we had it.
I think it was verbal. I think it was informal.
Which is,
but
which is why Joe Ramirez told me to do this.
But isn't the benefit of something like this, if we get a formal yes or no, then we have our base and we have to decide what our plan B is, one way or the other.
Again, I mean, to your point, if we get a yes and we still only have 3 years to play, we better use that 3 years wisely.
That's a maybe.
I'm just saying.
No, I'm saying that's a maybe to me,
on.
right?
Yeah.
3 years is a maybe.
Plan B. Just to offer, the agreement was executed in 2019, the latest version,
There you
and
go.
it's a 10-year agreement.
That's it. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So 2029
You
is
got 5
what
years
we're up against.
The 3 years is when they
can't
give
do
us
math,
notice they'll terminate
sorry.
early.
They'd have Plan B in our back pocket.
Okay.
5 years to do our own deal.
There's a lot to talk
digest.
about, but,
You want a motion?
yeah, we probably need to go on and, vote on this resolution.
We certainly don't need to hold it. Yeah, we need to move on that.
Motion to approve it.
All right, we got a motion. We got a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore, write it up.
Thank you.
All right, we've changed the agenda so that we're gonna hear our public comment next. I'd ask, you wanna call them, or?
Yes, sir, I've
I
got
would
to.
ask that the citizens that address the board, that they address the board of directors, and that each speaker is going to be granted 3 minutes to speak. And we appreciate your comments.
And we've got, never go down to order, 1, 2, 3 here. We've got a Mr. Johnny Goins.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening.
I am the owner of Verona Oaks Rentals in Verona. We have approximately 68 rental properties. I received a notice the other day where you wanting to charge per trailer a fee. You got a fee on the meter already, and now you're wanting to move it to each house. Just on one part, that would put me around $500 worth of meter fees. The water bill don't run to $600. Something's wrong there. I've talked to 2 or 3 people, and they've made a comment, well, we're only doing what the people around us are doing. So we're going up, you know. You're not providing me with nothing, you're not giving me nothing. How many times have you had to go to Verona Oaks and change a meter out because it didn't work? Does anyone know that answer? Nobody knows it, because you know what? They hadn't had to. Although I pay that fee every month, where's that money going to? Who's spending it? Are you using it where you want to use it? Or is that getting put in one separate account? It's crazy, guys. You know, I'm a business owner here in Onslow County, and some of you sitting on this board is business owners. And you know how that's got to work. And you just can't go in and say, okay, next month, we're going to start charging that fee. Well, no, that's not right. You know, that fee is one thing. That fee is put on there that the people agreed to let y'all put on there for a usage of your meter. But if you never replaced the meter in 30 years, what did you do with my $20-something a month? Do I get it back at the end of when I die? Or are you going to use it to your specifications where you want to spend it at? You know, we have people now that's coming in and building housing projects, and before you hook the water in, they got to have fire hydrant, they got to have everything, and guess what? You got no cost at all. No. You charge them a fee, and if the guy put in 300 houses, you're making that times ever how much you charge per meter. And it's out of control. I think we need to look at adjusting it, looking at it. Be honest with you, I think you need to do away with it. Because if we let you get away with this, it's not going to be long before every meter at my house, if I got an outhouse that's got water running to it, you're going to charge me for it. That's another charge. It ain't going to stop. And you need to back us up and say, hey, you're right, we're not going to do it. One other thing, I know that's one thing, and I'm really concerned about that. I go to the water department because I have so many accounts and I have to go inside every month. Because there's like 17 different bills. I went to the facility the other day and my wife rode with me and she got out. She come walking in a few minutes later after I was in there. Is my 5 minutes up?
Yes, sir.
Oh, can I go over on just this one thing?
Please get to an end here.
It's a real simple thing.
Okay.
You got a sign that says no public bathroom. State of North Carolina says you gotta have a public bathroom if you have a facility for people to come in, and you do.
Thank you, sir.
My wife got sent to Georgetown to use the bathroom. I didn't like it at all.
Thank you, sir. I think I've got next, Mr. Parker. I'm sorry, I don't have the first name.
Thank you, gentlemen, for letting me speak here just a minute. I have 5 multimeters, one 1.5 inch.
Parker? Tim.
Tim, okay, I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
5 multimeters, 1 inch that is 1.5 inches and the other 4 inch. I've had 2 of the inch meters for 36 years. And it's always been billed the same without this usage that you want to put on each unit that we own. I've talked to several of the families, telling them what's coming up. $20 is $17.28, I think it is, that you want to put on each individual unit, rounded off to $20. A lot of them are saying we can't pay for $20 more. We are on Social Security. They got a 3% Social Security raise COLA this year, and their Medicare went up $15 or whatever it was, $20. They say we have no more money to pay you. I really don't think this is a fair assessment for this board that they done to vote on that. Being that long, that they've been there that many years, seems to me like you don't just change the game or change the rules in the middle of the game. It just seemed like the wrong thing to do that you guys have done here. Just on the graph that the auditor had a while ago, there's plenty of money already there, and this just looks like a big ONWASA authority hand reaching out and grabbing more money from the public people because you can. I just don't think that's the fair thing to do. I'm kind of like Mr. Goins, where is the end to what will happen? If you can do it this time, you can do it more. But I think what really is, you just need to really consider the people, a lot of elderly people that live with us that cannot afford any more money. I will say this also, because I pay the bills for 36 years, I have water then, all I have is water now. All this ONWASA board appears to me is want to worry about wastewater. And that's where it seems like the water, the money water is going to that you want to put it toward wastewater. We have no more now than we did 30 years ago. So I'd like to ask this board to please reconsider that $17.28 per unit grant. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Thank you, sir. And last, we have Mr. Charles Ferris. Ferris, got it, all right.
Good evening. My name's Charles Ferris. I am a park owner here in Onslow County, and I've been a landlord for 24 years. I was born and raised here, and most of my adult life, or all of my adult life, I've been dealing with mobile home parks and the rental business. I've got 3 of these multi-user accounts in my name at this time. I currently pay $77.72 in user fees each month just to have those meters there. With this increase, based on the 32 units, it raises it up to $552.96 each month just in user fees, which is a $475 increase. for no increase in services. I got that same letter, y'all sent out on the 29th. It stated the NC General Statute said ONWASA must apply our rate and fee schedule equally across all users. I would assume that this is to ensure that each customer is paying equally for the services that they get from y'all. No matter where they live on the system. To that point, I don't see how you can justify this change. A multi-user account receives nothing extra from ONWASA that a residential 3/4 meter doesn't get. I can't get no more water out of my 3/4 meter than they can get out of their 3/4 meter because it's the same meter. This new way of charging is based on personal property, not based on ONWASA's cost to maintain or provide services. Onslow County charges its residents property tax in much the same way, making this more of a tax than a charge for water availability. Many of these multimeters, or possibly all of them, were installed with the approval of the county planning department and ONWASA/water department at the time. This was done to alleviate the cost to the property owner, which is pointed out in the second letter that I got on December the 7th. What wasn't mentioned in the letter is that it was also beneficial for ONWASA, or the water department. Some of those ways is they only had to install 1 meter for several residences, and they sold a lot of water out of that 1 meter. There's only 1 meter to read and to bill out each month, and there's only 1 meter to maintain. There's less water line for ONWASA to maintain and inspect in the future, and less connects and reconnects with the billing side of it, because it's all being fed from the 1 meter that's owned by the park owner. But there's downsides to being a multi-user, because there's no way to determine the usage at each unit. You can't isolate and find water leaks as easily, and the owner and landlord is always responsible for the bill.
Well, thank you for your time.
I got one more thing.
Okay.
So while I was in there in the ONWASA building on December the 8th, I was told that, I was handed a copy of the NC statute. I read it. I don't see anything on that statute that justifies this change in the way things are being billed. It was said it needed to be done for it to be equally. I would argue that this is unequal. I was also told that all the other water companies around us bill the same way. I didn't know if that was true or not, so I called them. I've called Craven County Water, Brunswick County Utilities, Cape Fear Public Utility Authority, Greenville Utilities, North Lenore Water, and Jones County Water, which they said they really don't have multimeters. But all the other ones do, and none of them charge the way that is detailed in those letters that we got. They charge based on usage. Some of their usage fees are higher based on the volume and the gallons per 1,000 gallons. But the city of Jacksonville does charge this way. And they're the only ones that I found that charge a per unit fee based on the owner's personal property. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
The board has struggled with this, and we're going to continue to look for ways to make this fair for everybody. But at this time,
Is it, I mean, I know we're getting ready to go into closed session, but I was talking to Mr. Warden. Is this something that we need to put in a workshop where we can sit down and look at what's going on, that information, and really, and determine as a board, maybe other avenues, or is this necessary? Those lines, just have a good conversation, hearing from the attorney, hearing what's going on, looking at what other utilities are doing, and really take a hard look at what they shared. Having shared 36 years and 24 years, I think it's probably important to really look at it, because I'm thinking that these gentlemen have paid that bill 40 years, and what can we do to help alleviate that or assist that? Or what can we do the better than what we're doing right now?
And I wouldn't mind that information that Mr. Ferris was just sharing with us. That'd be interesting too.
Yes.
I'd like to branch out and see how far we can go.
We have a workshop
Thank you.
scheduled for
Yes.
February, don't we?
Yeah,
What if we
just
put
put it
that
on
on the
there.
agenda for our workshop? Let's do
Because
that.
this wouldn't come due until August, so let's really look at that. Because
July, when is it? July 1?
July.
So we got a few months to try to figure out something.
And I know we're getting ready to go, but I said it last night with people making public comment, and I'm gonna say it tonight, is that I know everybody on this board appreciates when the public comes to the microphone and speaks in the manner in which these three gentlemen spoke tonight, not throwing things at us, not hollering at us, but coming to us with legitimate concerns with some research and stuff. And that we appreciate the approach to the board and what you did tonight.
And the other thing I would throw out is, I kind of was surprised, I think the gentleman made a comment about leakage and stuff. I can tell you, in the gas business, when I ran a gas utility, you don't allow that for exactly the reason that you said. You can't find leaks. You can't, that was the one thing that we fired metermen for. It's called curbing the meter.
I imagine you can find a gas leak a whole lot easier than you could a damn water leak with a cigarette.
Right. Well, but you actually.
And I think that's some of the
problem you
conversation.
have is, it depends on where the meter is. Because what the meter tells you is usage inside, not a leak going up to the meter. And that's the key. I mean, inside, you're gonna find the water because it'll be all over the house. With gas, you can't tell. Because
Not until you light a match.
Yeah.
No, you give me a chance to speak all the time. But I got here early before anybody was here, and I did it for a reason. I used to be UPS, and worked for UPS, I was shocked. But I like to hear what's going on from the people. And you know what I heard from most of y'all? Well, we got some new faces. Well, you know something? If you're doing the job that you've been doing, and you've been doing good, you're not gonna have a lot of new faces. Because they trust you to do people on the very trust you. So when you start messing up, that's when you start screwing up. And it's something we gotta admit, it's the truth.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, can we get a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A6. We got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, we'll call this meeting back into open session, and
Don't you have to have a motion on that? You don't? Okay.
Mayor Davis had to leave us, so I need somebody to move.
I'll make a motion, we excuse Mayor Davis, Director Davis.
Okay. Do we have a second to that motion? Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and somebody gonna make a motion on the salary? All right, we need a
Motion
We
to
need a motion to
adjust,
adjust the CEO's salary to 175,
so moved.
starting the next pay period. I have a motion by Director
Second.
Foster and a second. And we have any discussion about that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that motion carries, and then we'll hear comments by the CEO.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the consideration and try not to put y'all in that situation for closed sessions very often, so.
Well,
I know
you
I'm
did
on-
tell him he's gotta work 10 hours more a week.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Is that not in the motion?
Yeah.
That part of the agreement.
12.
That increased by 1 minute every day, so it'd be 1 minute the first day, 2 minutes the second day, and 4 minutes.
Tim, that was better than what we told him, wasn't it?
For making this meeting probably twice as long as what we're used to. So I'll be brief in my comments. I do have some notes here just to make sure we got some things in the minutes. Just a quick update, the booster station, you've seen it in my weekly updates. We have got that underway and working with contractor, and David's still here, but we did have a little bit of a surprise in that initial meetings with them, that they had some lead time issues on certain products. So we're working with them to get some submittals back to our engineers so that we can consider some other items that may get the same thing done, but hopefully have a shorter period of time. We don't have an update on that yet, but we hope to have it real soon. So we know that that's a real short window of opportunity to get that project underway and completed. We do still have our committed partnership with Surf City, so they're still serving roughly 1,100 accounts on the island out of the 3,000 accounts. So they're taking a pretty big demand off of the system over there temporarily. And they'll continue to do that until we tell them we don't need it any longer. In fact, they actually are interested in keeping it permanently, but we'll have to discuss that with them at a future date. But anyway, that's where we're at with the booster station, unless somebody's got some questions.
Just one, and you already know my question. We're still planning for nothing being done this summer, and so we're going to make sure that we're operationally set up, including the Surf City thing, so we have water, correct?
Right. Yeah,
I need to take that back because we ran out last summer.
It's definitely on our radar too, and with this issue with the lead times, I think it's tough to say that we can commit to that June 2024 date, but unless the miracle happens and some of these things shorten up by double, so we'll see. I hate to even repeat it, I did type it in here, but one of the things was it was 55-week lead time on. I'm not sure what that was, but that may have just been an estimate. But that's over a year. I don't even know why they put it in week terms at that point. They should have just said a year and a couple weeks. So, real quick on good news, and Eric alluded to this in his update, but Northwest Wastewater Treatment Plant is in its final stages. As a matter of fact, David will be attending a meeting tomorrow to deal with some punch list items. So we're hoping to have that wrapped up by January 31st. That's their projected end date. We're all happy to see that. So, Plurus transition, so customers with that acquisition should have received their ONWASA bills this past month. So we're dealing with some of that as customers call in and question kind of what that looks like under the new billing structure. Otherwise, I mean, it's a learning process, so we're learning a lot about the system. We're trying to map it. GIS is working on getting some additional maps in there so we can know where everything is at. One quick item, you're all aware of this as well, the North Carolina Rural Water Association did an article that I shared with you in their quarterly magazine highlighting some of our employees. So I thought that was a great news thing to share with you. So we have a great team of employees. Mark Young assembled a team to help Pink Hill when they were in a time of need. They lost all their certified operators, so we did that and got some recognition in that magazine. We're going to try to get some local press on that as well, because it's a good thing. You know, we were able to use some of our employees on their own time to lend a hand to Pink Hill, and they were very thankful for that. Just a summary on growth and water production. December numbers are in, so we're tracking about like usual on growth, 2.3% growth in accounts year over year. That's about 1,346 accounts, roughly 112 per month when you look at the last year. As compared to the previous year, I think it was 2.9%, so we're still on par, just under 3%. On the water production side, we're seeing 5% increase on water production, so it's low. It's a larger number than the number of customers, so I think a lot of that attributes to we've got some larger accounts. We have some of these multi-user accounts, so we've got more users on the end of those accounts, and they're using a lot more water. So we've seen 5% a year, I think, for the past 6 years almost, and so that's a pretty significant amount. I think it's 30% when you look at 6 years ago to now, so it's a pretty large gap to fill. You know, we're talking about building an additional water treatment plant to try to help with that. So I know the gentleman earlier said he hears us talk a lot about wastewater. Well, the reality is we have half of our CIP is a new water treatment plant, and so fees have to pay for that. So we are trying to get ahead of that. I think you've heard us say we're going to try to double our water capacity in the next 10 years, so you can see why we need it, because the demand is there. Budget's underway. We can talk about that a little bit under the workshop too as well, because we'll be right in the middle of some of that with employees, but we've got our supervisors working on their budget packets to be delivered to the finance office soon. So that's pretty much where I'm at on an update, unless anybody's got some questions for me.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll have some director comments. Mr. Hines?
Yes, sir.
You're our new one. We appreciate you being here. We welcome you. You're new, or this time around, yeah. Open for your comments, sir.
Well, I'm happy to be back. I kind of feel like I'm back home to a few new faces and a few old faces. And our CEO gave me with his staff, gave me a good orientation of what I've been missing the last 2 years and what they've been working on. And I've seen a lot of old faces that, we've got the best staff there is. And I'm sure the new ones are, just as good. So I'm tickled to death to be back, and I want to thank, as I used to do, thank the people on TV land for watching us and listening to us. And also, if I don't say this, I'm gonna get in trouble, but my wife's birthday's today, so she spent several ONWASA meetings in the past for her birthday here at the meeting. So
I know, we kind of missed her
Where's
the
the
last
cake,
couple of
Frankie?
years.
I'm sorry, I missed that one, so next time.
I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad I've served with probably all of y'all except you served before, and so we've always had a good board here, and I'm glad to be back.
Mr. Warden?
No comment.
Mr. Foster?
It's a good night. Appreciate it. Thank you.
No report.
Okay. Mr.
Happy New Year.
Secretary,
Happy New Year.
Vice Chair?
We've had a lot of discussion about a lot of interesting things tonight, but one thing we didn't talk about in our water treatment policy here is after tonight's invocation, boys, I think we might be selling holy water.
Great and fee for that.
Oh, me. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Mr. Howard, I just wanted to say, we appreciate you. We had lively discussion and we appreciate everything you do. I think all these directors are very happy with your work, and we're glad you're with us. We got some difficult issues to deal with. I don't think people realize how much it costs to produce that water
That's right.
that we provide to them. But yeah, hopefully in our workshop we can look at maybe some other options, some ways to mitigate some of the issues. Yeah, looking forward to that workshop. There's a lot of good stuff.
We didn't set a time on that, so I know I need to get back to you guys on that time. I know I floated some ideas, so you guys just let me know whether 3 or 6 works, or somewhere in between.
It's the 8th, right?
It's the 8th, Thursday the 8th,
8th of February. Okay.
at our main office.
I'm good with whatever you do, just let me know.
3 p.m. afternoon, would that work for everybody?
Do 3 o'clock? Everybody do 3 o'clock?
Yeah, I can do that.
Well, let's do that, and we'll set it for 3 in the afternoon.
February 8th.
Now you don't have to text everybody.
Thank you.
So anybody's birthday, so that Frankie can bring a cake this time, or are we good?
I'd have to,
Well, mine's coming up in March now, so.
That's close enough.
If it goes up to 5, we get overtime, is that how that works? Okay.
We're gonna pay you double.
All righty.
Well,
it's an extra meeting, so.
okay. So that's all we have, I think, and I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Move.
3 o'clock.
All right, all in favor, aye. Aye. Thank you, guys. We're adjourned.